In 2002, Jeff Hawkins finally revealed the device he had been imagining for years: the Treo. At first glance, it looked unusual. Part phone, part computer, part organizer. It didn't fit neatly into any existing category. And that was exactly the point. For years, people had carried multiple devices: a phone for calls, a palm device for schedules, a pager for messages, sometimes even a laptop for email. The Treo attempted to combine those worlds. One device, one pocket, one digital life. Today, that idea sounds completely normal. At the time, it felt radical. Many technology companies still viewed phones as communication tools. Nothing more. Jeff Hawkins viewed them differently. He believed phones would eventually become personal computers. Not desktop computers. Not laptop computers. Something entirely new. The Treo represented that belief. It included email, internet access, contacts, calendars, applications, messaging, features that would later define modern smartphones. Years before most consumers expected them, the device attracted attention immediately. Technology enthusiasts loved it. Business users loved it. Industry analysts became fascinated. Many observers felt they were looking at the future, even if they couldn't fully describe it yet. The timing seemed perfect. Mobile networks were improving. Wireless communication was improving. The internet was becoming increasingly important. The world was slowly moving toward a more connected future. And the Treo appeared designed for exactly that future. Yet building the future and selling the future are not always the same thing. The device impressed reviewers. But it also faced challenges. Battery life remained limited. Mobile internet remained slow. Software remained difficult. The technology ecosystem still had years of development ahead of it. Consumers liked the idea, but many weren't ready to change their habits. Businesses liked the idea, but many still relied on older systems. The market moved forward, just not as quickly as Hawkins hoped. Despite those challenges, the Treo gained momentum. Sales increased, recognition increased, and Handspring suddenly looked like one of the most innovative companies in Silicon Valley. Meanwhile, Palm watched from the sidelines. The company that had created the PDA revolution was now watching its former founders create something new. Something that looked increasingly important. The irony was difficult to miss. The people who built Palm's success were now defining the next stage of mobile computing. And eventually, the two companies would find themselves moving toward each other once again. Because as the Treo gained popularity, a realization spread throughout the industry. The future of mobile technology would not belong to organizers. It would belong to connected devices. Devices that combined communication, information, and computing. The smartphone era was approaching. Most people simply didn't know it yet. By the early 2000s, the future of mobile technology was beginning to take shape. The question was no longer whether people would carry digital devices. The question was what those devices would become. And increasingly, two companies offered very different answers: Palm and BlackBerry. Both were successful. Both were growing. Both were respected. Yet they represented completely different philosophies. Palm believed mobile devices should function like personal computers. Flexible, adaptable, capable of doing many things. BlackBerry believed mobile devices should excel at communication, especially email. The distinction seemed small. It wasn't. Inside corporations around the world, BlackBerry was becoming indispensable. Executives carried them everywhere. Government officials carried them everywhere. Law firms, investment banks, large enterprises. Everyone wanted mobile email. The addiction became so famous that people invented a nickname, Crackberry, because users checked messages constantly, day and night. Meetings, airports, restaurants, vacations. The device rarely left their hands. For BlackBerry, that obsession became a competitive advantage. The company wasn't selling hardware. It was selling connectivity. The promise that no important message would ever be missed. Palm approached the market differently. Its devices felt more versatile, more personal, more computer-like. The Treo could handle email, but it could also manage schedules, browse the web, run applications, store information. Palm envisioned a future where mobile devices became increasingly powerful. BlackBerry envisioned a future where communication remained the center of everything. For several years, both visions appeared successful. Both companies gained customers. Both companies gained loyal supporters. And both companies believed they were leading the industry. Investors debated which approach would dominate. Technology journalists debated which approach would dominate. Executives debated which approach would dominate. No clear answer existed, because the market itself was still evolving. Mobile internet remained slow. Wireless networks remained limited. Applications remained relatively simple. The smartphone industry was still searching for its identity. Yet underneath the competition, something larger was happening. The boundaries between phones and computers were disappearing. Each new generation of devices became more powerful, more connected, more capable. The industry was moving toward convergence, and companies everywhere could sense it. Palm sensed it. BlackBerry sensed it. Microsoft sensed it. Nokia sensed it. What nobody fully understood was how quickly the industry was about to change. Because while Palm and BlackBerry focused on competing with each other, a company in California was quietly preparing a product that would redefine the entire market. For years, Apple had remained largely outside the smartphone conversation. That was about to change. And when it did, the rules of the game would change with it. On January 9, 2007, the leaders of the mobile industry were paying attention to Apple, just not for the reasons people remember today. At the time, Apple was known for computers, and increasingly for the iPod. The company had transformed the music industry. It had built one of the world's most recognizable consumer brands. But mobile phones were a different business. A difficult business. An industry dominated by powerful players. Nokia, Motorola, BlackBerry, Palm, Microsoft. Each had spent years building products, relationships, and distribution networks. Few outsiders succeeded there. Few expected Apple to be different. That morning, Steve Jobs walked onto a stage in San Francisco. The audience expected a new phone. What they received was something harder to define. Jobs began slowly, as he often did, building anticipation, creating suspense. Then he introduced 3 products: an iPod, a phone, and an internet communicator. The audience applauded. Then Jobs repeated the list. Again. And again. Gradually, people realized what he was saying. These were not three products. They were one product. The iPhone. The crowd erupted. The moment quickly became one of the most famous product launches in technology history. Yet outside the auditorium, reactions were mixed. Some executives were impressed. Others were skeptical. Many focused on the device's weaknesses. The keyboard was missing. Battery concerns remained. The price seemed high. The software looked unfinished. The network speed looked slow. For companies like Palm and BlackBerry, the announcement was impossible to ignore. But it wasn't immediately terrifying. Palm executives understood mobile computing. They had spent years building devices that combined communication and productivity. Many observers viewed the iPhone as an interesting competitor, not necessarily a revolutionary one. At least not yet. BlackBerry executives felt even more confident. Their customers demanded secure email, physical keyboards, corporate reliability. The iPhone appeared designed for consumers, not enterprise users, not serious professionals. The assumptions seemed reasonable. History would prove otherwise. What made the iPhone different wasn't any individual feature. Palm had internet access. Palm had applications. Palm had calendars. Palm had email. BlackBerry had communication. Nokia had distribution. Others had touch screens. The innovation wasn't a single technology. It was the experience. The device felt different. It behaved differently. It invited people to interact with software differently. And perhaps most importantly, it expanded expectations. People stopped asking what phones could do. They started asking what phones should do. That subtle change would reshape the entire industry. At the end of the presentation, many people believed they had seen a promising new product. A few believed they had seen the future. Almost nobody realized they had just watched the beginning of a new era. For Palm, the challenge was immediate. The company had spent years trying to build the future of mobile computing. Now another company was claiming ownership of that future. And the race was about to accelerate. In the months following Apple's announcement, the mobile industry continued operating much as it always had. Products launched. Strategies evolved. Executives gave interviews. Investors analyzed market share. From the outside, nothing seemed dramatically different. The iPhone had generated headlines. But headlines alone didn't change industries. At least not immediately. Inside Palm, the reaction was serious. The company understood mobile computing better than most. Its leaders had spent years imagining devices that combined communication, software, and internet access. They could see what Apple was attempting. They could see the direction. What remained uncertain was the speed. Would consumers really abandon physical keyboards? Would businesses trust touchscreen devices? Would mobile internet become central to everyday life? Nobody knew. And uncertainty creates hesitation. Across the industry, many companies focused on the iPhone's weaknesses. The price seemed expensive. Battery life remained limited. Corporate security remained questionable. The device lacked features many professionals expected. Critics pointed to those limitations constantly. Some executives privately dismissed the product. Others publicly dismissed it. The most common mistake was assuming the iPhone would compete within the existing market. The reality was very different. Apple wasn't trying to build a better business phone, or a better PDA, or a better mobile email device. Apple was redefining what consumers expected from all of them. That distinction was easy to miss, and many people missed it. BlackBerry remained confident. Its dominance in enterprise communication appeared secure. Corporate customers depended on its infrastructure. Its physical keyboard remained beloved. Its reputation remained strong. Nokia remained confident. The company sold hundreds of millions of phones every year. Its global reach seemed impossible to challenge. Microsoft remained confident. Windows Mobile continued evolving. Partnerships continued expanding. The industry looked stable. Yet underneath that stability, consumer behavior was already changing. People who experienced the iPhone began comparing other devices against it. Not against previous phones. Against the future. The shift happened gradually, then accelerated. Touchscreens no longer looked strange. They looked inevitable. Mobile web browsing no longer looked optional. It looked essential. Software no longer felt secondary. It became the product itself. Palm watched these changes carefully. Perhaps more carefully than most. Because unlike many competitors, Palm's founders had spent years predicting exactly this kind of future. The company understood that mobile computing was entering a new phase. The challenge was responding fast enough. For the first time in years, Palm was no longer leading the industry. It was chasing it. That realization was painful, but it was also motivating. Inside the company, engineers began working on something ambitious. Not an update. Not an improvement. A complete response. A device designed specifically for the world Apple was creating. A device that many believed could save Palm. A device called the Palm Pre. For a brief moment, it would look like Palm had one final chance. By 2008, Palm faced a difficult reality. The company that once defined mobile computing was struggling to remain relevant. Market share was shrinking. Competitors were growing stronger. The industry was moving faster than ever. Many observers believed Palm's best days were behind it. Inside the company, a different story was unfolding. Engineers were building something entirely new. Not another PDA. Not another Treo. A new operating system. A new vision. A new beginning. The project became known as webOS. Unlike many mobile platforms of the era, webOS felt modern. Remarkably modern. Applications could run simultaneously. Users could switch between tasks effortlessly. Notifications appeared without interrupting workflow. The interface felt fluid, natural, elegant. Many concepts that later became standard across the smartphone industry appeared inside webOS first. The operating system represented years of lessons, years of mistakes, years of understanding how people interacted with mobile devices. Palm wasn't simply trying to compete with Apple. It was trying to leap forward. In January 2009, the company unveiled the Palm Pre. The reaction was immediate. Technology journalists were impressed. Reviewers were impressed. Industry analysts were impressed. For the first time in years, people were talking about Palm with excitement. The device looked modern. The software looked modern. The vision looked modern. Many observers described it as the strongest challenge to the iPhone yet. Some publications went further. They called it an iPhone killer. The phrase appeared everywhere. Investors became optimistic. Palm stock surged. Developers paid attention. Consumers paid attention. For a brief moment, it felt like Palm might actually pull it off. The comeback story seemed possible, perhaps even likely. The irony was remarkable. Years earlier, Palm had helped invent mobile computing. Now the company appeared ready to reinvent itself. Again. And unlike many struggling technology companies, Palm's problem was no longer product quality. The Palm Pre was good. Very good. In some areas, many reviewers believed it was better than the iPhone. Multitasking felt better. Notifications felt better. The user interface felt more flexible. The software felt ahead of its time. Palm had finally built the device Jeff Hawkins had imagined years earlier. A true pocket computer. Connected. Personal. Always available. The future had arrived. The problem was that the future had arrived somewhere else first. By 2009, Apple wasn't simply selling phones. It was building an ecosystem. The App Store was growing rapidly. Developers were investing heavily. Customers were becoming loyal. Accessories were appearing everywhere. A powerful network was forming around the product. And ecosystems are much harder to challenge than devices. Palm had built a great phone. Apple had built a platform. The difference would prove decisive. At launch, the Palm Pre looked like hope. Looking back today, it looks like Palm's final masterpiece. The device proved the company still understood innovation, still understood design, still understood the future. What it could no longer control was timing. And timing was about to decide everything. For a brief moment, the Palm Pre gave the company something it had not felt in years. Momentum. The reviews were strong. The media coverage was positive. The industry was paying attention again. Palm finally looked relevant. After years of decline, the company had produced a device people genuinely wanted. Yet something strange happened. The excitement never translated into the kind of success Palm needed. Sales were respectable, but not transformative. Customers were interested, but not enough customers. Developers were curious, but not enough developers. The company had solved many of its technical problems. It had not solved its strategic ones. By 2009, the smartphone industry was no longer a race between devices. It was becoming a race between ecosystems. Apple had the App Store. Google had Android. Developers were choosing sides. Consumers were choosing sides. Mobile carriers were choosing sides. Entire industries were choosing sides. And once those decisions were made, changing them became increasingly difficult. Palm entered the battle with an excellent product. Its competitors entered with armies. Apple's software ecosystem expanded every month. Android manufacturers appeared everywhere. New devices launched constantly. New applications arrived constantly. The momentum became overwhelming. Palm simply could not match the scale. The company tried. New marketing campaigns appeared. New partnerships appeared. New products appeared. But each effort faced the same reality. Palm was no longer competing against individual phones. It was competing against entire platforms. And platforms become stronger as they grow. Developers attract applications. Applications attract users. Users attract developers. The cycle reinforces itself. Again and again. Palm understood the technology. Palm understood the user experience. Palm understood mobile computing. What Palm lacked was time. Years earlier, the company had correctly predicted where the industry was heading. The tragedy was that prediction alone was not enough. Being early is often celebrated in technology history. In reality, being early can be almost as dangerous as being wrong. Palm arrived before the market was ready, then returned after the market had already chosen new leaders. Caught between those two moments, the company found itself trapped. By 2010, the situation had become increasingly difficult. Investors were losing confidence. Resources were shrinking. Pressure was growing. Palm needed help. And eventually, help appeared in the form of one of the largest technology companies in the world, Hewlett-Packard. The acquisition generated headlines. Executives spoke optimistically. Analysts debated the possibilities. Many people believed HP had just purchased the future. What happened next would become one of the most expensive disappointments in technology history. Palm's journey as an independent company was ending. But its story was not over yet. Not quite. Because sometimes a company's final chapter tells us more than its first success ever could. In 2010, Hewlett-Packard acquired Palm for more than $1 billion. The announcement generated excitement. Industry analysts imagined new possibilities. Executives spoke confidently about the future. Many believed HP had found a way back into the mobile industry. And for a moment, the vision sounded convincing. Palm had talented engineers. Palm had webOS. Palm had years of experience building mobile devices. Combined with HP's resources, success seemed possible. It never happened. The integration proved difficult. Strategies changed. Leadership changed. Priorities changed. Within a remarkably short period of time, the momentum disappeared. Products were canceled. Plans were abandoned. And one of the most innovative software platforms in the industry found itself without a clear future. For many observers, that looked like the end of the story. Palm was gone. The smartphone wars had new winners. Apple, Google, Samsung. The market moved forward. History moved on. But technology history rarely works that way. Ideas have a habit of surviving long after the companies that created them disappear. And Palm created a lot of ideas. Years before smartphones became mainstream, Palm believed computing should fit naturally into everyday life. Years before mobile applications became central to technology, Palm understood software mattered more than hardware specifications. Years before multitasking became standard, webOS demonstrated how fluid mobile computing could feel. Many features that impressed reviewers in the Palm Pre eventually appeared elsewhere. Card-based multitasking, gesture navigation, seamless task switching, unified notifications. Concepts that felt innovative in 2009 gradually became normal across the industry. The companies changed. The ideas remained. That pattern appeared throughout Palm's history. The Palm Pilot helped teach people that information could travel with them. The Treo helped demonstrate that phones and computers would eventually become the same device. webOS helped show how mobile software should behave. Again and again, Palm looked ahead. Sometimes years ahead. The company did not always win, but it often arrived first. That distinction matters, because history tends to celebrate winners. Technology history often rewards something else. The companies willing to imagine a future before everyone else can see it. Palm was one of those companies. Its greatest weakness was not a lack of vision. In many ways, it had too much vision. The company repeatedly saw opportunities before the market was ready, then struggled to capitalize on them once the market finally arrived. That is a difficult legacy, but it is also a remarkable one. Today, billions of people carry smartphones. They check messages, browse the internet, manage calendars, store contacts, run applications, navigate cities, and organize entire lives from devices that fit inside a pocket. To most users, that feels completely normal. Yet there was a time when almost none of it existed. A time when carrying your digital life with you sounded unrealistic. A time when a small company called Palm insisted the future would fit inside a pocket. Most people didn't believe it. Eventually, everyone did. Palm never became the company that dominated the smartphone era. Apple did. Google did. Others did. But pieces of Palm survived inside nearly every modern smartphone. Hidden beneath the glass. Hidden beneath the software. Hidden beneath the brands that replaced it. The company disappeared. The influence remained. And perhaps that is the strangest outcome of all. Palm spent decades trying to build the future. In the end, the future arrived. It simply arrived carrying someone else's logo. That is the unspoken system.